Vamos. Sim, vamos lá. Sim. Vamos abrir? Sim. Ok, então vamos mudar para inglês, conferência em inglês, temos alguns convidados internacionais e pessoas jornalistas. So, on behalf of all the team and the organization everyone has been tirelessly working on this. So on behalf of the whole team of the organization, staff, teachers, students, and participants, welcome all. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for our guest speakers and artists. So we're just going to open up the conference with some few words from the institution. So the head of the dean of the school, the Faculty of Fine Arts of the University of Porto. And we have a full day. So without further ado, we'll have a few words from the director of the research unit, and from each department who has been organizing this. And on behalf of the organization, I wish you all, and the people home over there, I wish you all a great conference, and I hope to see you all throughout the day. Thank you. Without further ado, Professor Lucy.
I'm so glad to see that everyone is enthusiastic about the day that is that will be a very exciting day, I'm sure, for all. And I would like to welcome you, and as well as the people that are online. Right, there are plenty of people online, I believe, watching this event, which is very important to us as a school, and it has a unique feature that is particularly compelling to me, and I'd like to stress it to underline its importance, and that is that it brings together all areas of study and research here in the Fine Arts School of the University of Porto: drawing, visual and plastic arts, and design, and that in itself is something that is exciting, is important, and needs developing, and other initiatives such as this one. We try here in the school to create a dynamic of collaboration and between all areas, among all areas, and I think that events like this are a very good example of that, and so I believe that it is particularly important to organize these initiatives. Also, and very important as well, the fact that it is an international event, and so it brings together not only students, researchers, faculty here in the school, but engages with the world. And this is what we hope to happen more often. And so I think congratulate the organization, and just leave my thanks, leave here my thanks to all, and hope that you all have a very exciting and rewarding day. From the program, I believe that will be the case, and from the enthusiasm of everyone involved that I can see here in the room, I also think it will be very successful. So I wish you all a very good day, and thank you again.
In behalf of our research institute in Art, Design and Society, we would like to give you a warm welcome for all of those that are here in the Faculty of Fine Arts, for all of those who are at home watching us online. So just to say that we are very happy. It's an honor to welcome you here today. My first thoughts are, of course, to congratulate the organization. I was yesterday I received emails at 2 a.m. So, well, today at 2 a.m. So you can see the amount of work that all these initiatives involved. And to say, of course, that this initiative is also very important for our research programs. The digital is, of course, an area that permeates our culture today in several areas. And drawing, performance, and of course, this in particular is very important for us because it allows us to rethink what is the impact of digital, what is the impact of computational practices, and what type of hybrid practices it can also develop. So without further developments, just to reinforce, we are very happy to have you here, and please, well, enjoy these workshops. Thank you.
This has been a joint organization from all the courses, from the programs of our. This has been a joint organization from the programs of our school. So I ask a few very short words from each program, if relevant.
Okay, I am professor in the Plastic Arts Department, and Plastic Arts Department is involved with the organization of this event since the first edition. And we see computation, as Paul has said, as a common territory to all these areas of art, design, science. And so to explore it in the field of plastic arts, we believe that will increase freedom of expression, considering that when the students get in contact or able with the possibility to program computers, they are creating new options outside of the options that standard applications offer them. And so with more options, that is for sure more freedom of expression. So we look forward in the next years for what's coming out from this joint venture between art, design, science, and computation. So, Miguel, I think you are the professor of design. No?
Okay, vamos deixar a câmera de Liana, queres vir? Okay. On behalf of the design program, Rodrigo, you start cá. The design program offers a few classes on web design, creative coding. So this has been a strategic also area for the graphic design course. Hopefully in the future, this will permeate into other courses. But as is, we hope this helps stimulate the graphic design, the editorial designers, the image designers, the product designers. So I think that I always say this, there's a thing in creative computing for everyone. So please enjoy, take something for your expertise, for your field of knowledge. And if you ever feel like coming here and study with us, well, for you back at home, feel free, just hop in. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you enjoy it. Please ask questions and we'll see you throughout the day. Without further ado, so we'll pass on the program. So the program will be constituted by this opening of the exhibition. Camila will then open the exhibition. We'll have some set of artist talks that have been set up via Zoom and in person today. And later after lunch, we'll have our guest keynote speaker, Ana Carreiras, followed by the workshop presentation. And we invite you all to stay to the end. We'll have a really nice roundtable discussion about creative computing and creative coding. I'm missing some word here, in the arts and design. Fun, and I'll pass the word to Camila. Thank you, Camila.
Thank you so much. Olá, bom dia. Hello. Just a second. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pedro. Welcome. Good morning. Welcome to everyone. First of all, I would like to thank immensely to everyone who made this possible. For the online, just a second, for the online exhibition of the PCD23 at Porto, we proposed the Recode as a challenge theme. And we were very surprised by the variety of interpretations presented in the 62 submissions received from artists, designers, and creators from 20 countries. So thank you very much for your contribution. In this online exhibition, you will find 18 works that reflect the post-digital culture they are a part of. As an exhibition, it has the uniqueness of bringing together a range of computational approaches that explore the notion of recode from the levels of the intentionality of the code and its expressive performance to through which they speak. We begin with works that challenge the common sense of processing, revisiting procedural trails considered result in digital systems. By exploring possible information pathways, they give light on materials and computational procedures that develop beyond the environment of the digital media. By promoting a plural movement of investigating and decoding previous works by artists and designers through contemporary tools, they set out to carry the codes forward through speculative models and sharing knowledge with the community. They also show how digital manipulation and generative strategies can convert prior content into abstract and ephemeral representations of the thought and the code processes. In addition, there are those we present as tools that make this content the canvas for the expression of the code in real time. By exploring digital materials through repetition and randomness, they subvert the structure and meaning of these contents as a reflection on the effects of the digital culture. Also, directing attention to how data-driven algorithms and have taken over information from social media and our everyday life. By proposing interactive representations to deal with complex data networks, they call for attention beyond the digital screen. Some projects make the audience movements and bars part of the work. These are installations that, through real-time capture, highlight feedback and play as essential elements of entity. At the same time, as a sort of like contemporary mirrors, they provoke to the estrangement of being in front of an stable and fragmented with reflection. The exhibition was organized on our website, linked to the conference, which I am now glad to share with you. Let's take a look, shall we? So here we are in homepage. Just to take a look on it. Each work was designed on the site like a pet, proposed like a pet, that for the public to experience creating relationships between the work itself some documentation, some process materials, reflections, and links. Okay. Here in the fact, we provided a space like a kind of contact zone with the online exhibition. So if you are here in the faculty, you can look at and navigate inside there.
Estão todos convidados a ir à cozinha.
A cozinha, yeah, galeria cozinha. It's like a space for socialization with the advent of function, a subgroup view of the works. Also, I remember to look at the Instagram profile, the PCD Instagram profile, because we are doing some lives during the day, so you can check out there. Following up the online exhibition, we have the Art Talk session with Pierre Couric, Liz Melchor in person. Melchor, sorry. Thank you. Melchor, Amanda Tate, and Tenzi Xiao, in a session moderated by our full professor, Del Cavalhais. Hello. Okay, thank you so much. And it is. Please. Pode ser.
Faz carinho? Quando vocês quiserem, claro. Qual o cabo que precisas aqui? Quando quiseres, Temos que mudar o cabo. Onde é que queres? Tens o adaptador, não? Queres ficar nesta máquina? Não, mas estou na. Mas não queres projetar? Check. Certo. Ok. Tirar o pino. Nice.
Okay, hi everyone, good morning. I'm going to be moderating this panel of 4 artist talks, 3 of them remote, 1 IRL because Liz is there. Hi. So we'll start with Pierre Couric. He comes from Belgium. Actually, he is in Belgium. And he has a body of work that weaves different technical and methodological practices, including navigation, including computer programming and the making of textile objects that he uses as components of ephemeral installations and performances which reveal an offbeat kind of normal, his own words. We will first hear of Pierre, then we'll have time for a Q&A. We will do questions right after the talks because, well, people are remote and they can't necessarily be online for the entire length of the session. So let's welcome Pierre.
Hi, do you hear me? Hello?
We're listening.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so you hear me, cool. Okay, hi, good morning, everyone. Wish I could be with you. Actually, as you said, yeah, part of my, that's an anecdote, but part of my practice is navigation. I live on a boat and I work from a boat, and my boat is now in France. And actually, I just realized that I have to bring it back to Belgium, but the distance between where it is now and Belgium is exactly the same as where it is now and Porto. So I was a bit fantasizing about sailing there, but maybe another time. I would like to share my screen to show you some things and speak about my approach to programming and its use in my work, but I don't know how to do it on this application. Oh, screen. Yes, there you go. It's loading.
We're just seeing your avatar.
Okay. Appear on. Wait. It's the first time I do it from this device. Zoom.
Okay, it's wait for it. Yeah.
Can you see it now?
Yeah, we're seeing it. Yeah.
Great.
We're seeing
Thanks.
it. Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to start from this page of my website, which I call Digital Dump, and it's just a place where I put the pictures that I make that are only digital, because there are always first steps into making something physical or something material. And so it's a bit like my daily sketchbook, I would say. I will clean the dump so you see it more organized. So you see all these things in 3D or 2D that I make with processing or other languages, Python also. I use a lot of Python directly into Blender to make 3D renders. And so I'm gonna just show you a few projects that I made and maybe try to connect them to this digital dump, like to show you the steps of the process of how does one of these pictures become a physical object or space for performance. So I will start with the set of books called AAZZZZ, which is this series of books, 4 books. And it contains all the combinations of letters from AA to ZZZZZ in alphabetical order. So it's actually a really simple ID that just generates all these possibilities. Really short algorithm to write. But then it allows to just actually have this printed material where all the words up to 5 letters in the Latin alphabet are present. And so it's this kind of crossword game where I put red pens on the table when I show them, and I invite the audience to look for words that they know in any language that you can write with the Latin alphabet among this set of possibilities. So I made it as a traveling piece. So it travels inside the table on which it stands. Like the table is actually a suitcase with little wheels, and I just travel with it because the idea is really to like put in different linguistic context and to collect as many meanings as possible. It's really like this gathering point where people speaking different languages can just like find similarities between words, or like just it's really like I think it works well as a thought production object, because just you start connecting things that you would not have connected otherwise, just because they are on the same page of the book or something like that. You also see that there are different formats, is because I want to show the exponentiality of the process, because of course, like the tiny book, the one that stands on the top left corner of the table, it's all the combinations up to 3 letters. And then the medium book, it's all the combinations of 4 letters. And then the 2 big ones are all the combinations of 5 letters. So of course, if you would make all the combination of 6 letters, you would have 26 times this amount. And I wanted it to be self-contained and I don't know, like just as a proof of concept, if I was already working with this small amount, rather small amounts, like still 12 million possibilities. But yeah, I want to be transportable. The second work I would like to show you is a really simple one, is this one. It's called A Semi-Secret of Hidden Signs. It's actually, I don't know if someone can see it like that, but it's actually Morse code. But I just made a script that calculates for a given dimension of a piece of fabric, the dimension of each of the pieces to translate the Morse code. So like, basically it's processing script, and it was outputting an image, but I was also like outputting textually what the image was, to then remake it by just following this instruction. So the idea of generating instruction from the computer, but to turn them into like a physical object. And so I don't know if someone can read Morse code, but it just says a semi-secret conspiracy of hidden signs, and it's a recurring sentence in my work. The idea of sometimes I take data from nature and I turn them into pieces through programming, and sometimes I do I like to sometimes do the other way around, like to add data in the real world, but that basically says, hello, this is a secret message, but really big, and as a flag, I find it interesting motion between the two. That sometimes through computing, you just become able to see phenomena that happens in the world and that are just next to you, and that you don't really have a grasp upon. So this is also one of these pieces. The idea of going the other way around, like taking Perlin noise function to make a wave. So like instead of taking the shape of a wave and turning it into a work, like taking the conceptual mathematical representation, human representation of a wave and turning it into a work and see if it functions or not. So the same principle, I just generated the quotes for all the pieces of fabric, and then I made it by following the instruction. You can see on the top of the fabric, this all the dimension for all the pieces of fabric. So yeah, one more of these. There is a music in the. I hear some music. What is it?
It's an alarm to set up lunch. Sorry.
Lunch. Wait, did they already speak for 10 minutes?
No, never mind. Please go on.
Okay. Actually, wait, I'm almost done actually with what I want to show you today, because I want to show you and tell you more about the piece that is shown now in the current event. And maybe I will switch back to the camera so I can show you like a material part of it. So it's called As We Wrap It Around Those Woolen Wings, and it's the transcription or translation or recoding of the DNA sequence of a sheep with a knitting machine and some nice little computer scripts. So I show you some pictures here, and yeah, I also maybe some people can recognize this face or this portrait. It's okay because wait, just one more thing. As you see, the work is starting in this glass terrarium, and the idea is to, after the show, store it there for like a long period of time and have let it be eaten by moths. So this little insect that eats cotton and wool and silk. And while I was producing this work, so with this knitting machine that could be connected to a computer, I realized that I knew that the first computer bug was an actual bug, but actually I didn't know that this first bug was actually a moth. So here is the page of the logbook of Grace Hopper. So this computer scientist from Harvard from the year 40s, when she was working on these really first computers, and she found this moth stuck inside the physical part of the computer, and she taped it in this notebook, and it became like the first bug, and it was a moth. So I found it really relevant that this little insect managed to entangle its existence with ours, because we are producing wool. So we have this like there is this network of interdependencies between the sheep that we raise to make wool, and then the moth that, as a consequence of our human craft and human knowledge into making textile, just stick with us and eat tiny bits of what we produce. And that because also, yeah, there is this shared history, of course, between textile design and computer science, and that this little insect is present in both. I find it like quite poetical and quite cute in a way that it managed to entangle its existence with us on so many different craft. I still had one tiny thing to show you. If you want, go for.
Go on.
I show you.
Yes, please.
Cool. So I want to show the work I just finished. I was in residency in Morocco for 2 months, so I'm just back in Belgium now to work on the scenography of a play. But I was 2 days ago there, and It's again this transition of data that is site specific for the city of Marrakesh because I was in residency there. So yeah, it feels like from 2 days ago, so I don't have really good pictures, but I can still explain the principle. So you see these wooden towers. Each of them is 1 year, made out of 12 cylinders. So each cylinder is 1 month. And of each of the cylinders is the quantity of rain for 1 given month of the 60 last years in Marrakesh. And the white bits are the months where 0 rain at all was recorded. So absolutely no rain. And that's just one more example of this approach that I have to use programming, but always as a tool and as a step into making physical and interactive pieces, because now the idea is that we built in Marrakesh this timeline of the city from the rain data, and it has a human size and it has a physical reality that we can interact with. And so I would like to start this protocol of also recording other water-related stories on top of this new object that exists, and also maybe try to keep the protocol working and append after each year a new column, and maybe try to find a permanent location for this work in the city of Marrakesh. Voila, that's it. Here are some pictures of the build-up, and yeah, all the pieces that I received from the woodworker I was collaborating with. So I just made this really simple script eventually that outputs the codes for all the different cylinders, and then they made it with a wood turning table, and then it was just this puzzle that I took 1 week to recompose eventually. I will stop the screen share so you will see my beautiful scarf that is sheep DNA.
Okay, Pierre, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any question from the room to Pierre? Or, by the way, from the people in the Zoom channel? We still have a few minutes if any of you place to Pierre. Otherwise, we can also keep our questions to the end and then have a short discussion with all the 4 participants. So in the meantime, I'm going to call Liz to the stage so that she can set up. Thank you, Pierre, once again.
Yeah, thank you a lot. I'm sorry I cannot stay. I'm actually at work. I was hiding from colleagues to do this. Have a really good day, and thank you for inviting, and just have a good day, and we keep in touch. I would like to send you some things also. I have this workshop proposal, but I don't know if it interests you, but I will send to you. So have a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Our next speaker is Melkor. She is a self-described American living in Lisbon, and she is with us IRL. So Liz has a lifelong obsession with the creative process that has driven her to work across a range of different media, starting with drawing, but then moving on to pen plotting and quickly finding some sort of synthesis between art and technology that satisfied her loves for puzzles, mathematics, drawings, and aesthetics. And that's what Liz is going to talk us about now. So welcome, Liz.
Hi. Everyone, I'm Liz. I'm from Palo Alto, California, but I actually live in Lisbon. So I live in Portugal. My Portuguese is unfortunately not great. But I'm going to present about the work that's included in the online exhibition today. It's called Flow Lines, and it's one file, many ways. And right here you see a video, and you see there's 10 different images, and this is all presented from the exact same digital file. I use a pen plotter. I'll show you some pictures of the pen, or a video of the pen plotter at work. It's like a drawing robot. It is very, very cool. So my background as an artist, I learned to draw about 10 years ago from a guy in San Francisco. He was eccentric. We weren't allowed to look at the page at all for 11 weeks at a time. This is me drawing with my hands. I am very like process based. I have a focus on mark making. I'm really curious about all the varieties and ways that a tool can make a mark on the page. You can see that nothing about my drawing is linear. I'm sort of just going with the flow. And I don't have a plan. I'm looking at something, but I let each mark sort of drive the image. I put the mark, I look at the page, I look at what I'm drawing, and I go. And so each drawing emerges as a surprise. Like I did not know where I was going to end up. And this is what is so interesting to me, right? It's like a very curious and playful experience. So last year, my fiance, he has a pen plotter. He had a pen plotter. I basically have now stolen it from him. And a pen plotter is a drawing robot. And it basically does everything that I don't do with my hands, right? It's very controllable and precise. It can perfectly repeat things. It needs a plan, unlike me. But what is really cool is that it can still do a variety of marks. It's a pen plotter, but you don't only need to use a pen. You can use a pencil, you can use a crayon, anything that I can fit in there. I can use something to scrape. I can use a brush. And here it is at work. And often when I like talk about the pen plotter, one of the first questions that I get is actually sort of a really basic one, like how does it work? How do you get the file from the computer to the printer? This is an AxiDraw, and so it has a specific workflow, but basically I generate an SVG. I've done that in processing, but there's other ways to do it. I've drawn on an iPad and then like tweaked it in Illustrator. And then you take the SVG and you use Inkscape and you send it via a plugin on the Inkscape. I've built a bigger robot that takes a different workflow and you have to send the file via G-code. So you have to translate the SVG into G-code. And the pen plotter for me, it sort of changes the workflow between the digital and the material, right? In the traditional model of bringing the digital to the material, you're really concentrating your creativity in the digital itself. You're doing all the tweaks and that's where you're like doing your magic, right? Inside of the computer. And then the act of printing, of course, there's choices to be made, scale and paper and a lot of different things. But in general, the goal is very much a technical one. It's like, how can I render what I've made digitally the best into the material world? And so you're ending up with like a singular final product. But the pen plotter, the digital creation is really the beginning. And so in the digital file, you can do a variety of things, which is awesome. But then when you move to the printer, there are so many different possibilities for you to realize the work. And so depending on what choices you make while you're using the pen plotter, I can take one single file, which is the work that I'm presenting today, one single file, and I can create many, many different products that really present a whole range of things. So this is not an exhaustive list in any ways, but what are some ways in which I can manipulate aspects of pen plotting to create these different works? There's mark making tools. We talked about it. Paper type can make a difference. Paper height can make a difference. And then something very specifically that I used in the flow lines is layers and turning on and off lines to print. I'm going to go through these. So first you have the different mark making tools. This is actually, these are files that I coded in processing, and they're all very similar files. These are 4 different artworks, but they're all very, very similar files, but the output is very different. On the left, you have gel marker, you have glitter gel pens, Copic markers. There I'm using a brush with dust and some water and fine liners. Then I have just fine liner pens on a Bristol paper. And then on the very far right, I have watercolor markers, and then I'm using coffee as water to sort of create this very much more organic feel than the one to the left. Different papers. This was an experiment I ran really early on between Yupo paper and watercolor paper. If you haven't ever used Yupo paper, I recommend it. It's very weird and synthetic. But with both of these swatches, the exact same thing was done by the robot with the exact same material, but you can see that the output is very, very different. These are exactly the same mark making tools and process, but again, like the feel is very different only due to the difference of the paper. Playing with different paper height is another way. So you can see this video on the right. You can play with paper height in many ways. I've seen people on Instagram put a string under their paper, but if you vary the paper height, you'll make thicker and thinner lines. You can see in the video how the paper is a bit hilly, and the paper here is hilly because the water has manipulated the paper and created these sort of hills and valleys. And you can see that it's not making a mark in the very middle and that it's making this thick mark at the top. It's kind of blurry, I apologize. It's making this thick mark at the top of the mountain of the paper. And these three are examples. Of course, the paper's manipulated with water, so it also creates some bleeding of the ink. But these three drawings right here, they are simply straight lines. Just like there, but you can see that there's a wide difference in sort of the marks that are made, and that is really about the paper both being wet and also the height of the paper. And then let me get to the work that's presented in the online exhibit today, and really what I played with most here, which is layering. This is the file that I used for these. It's 10 works in the end. It's very simple. I code. Well, I don't know fully how to code now, but I'm learning slowly. But there's a lot of tools on the internet of code, like generators where you don't need to know that much. And so I used one of these to generate this document. And what I would do is very similar to how I would draw a monkey or a figure. How I would draw with my hands is I would make a layer, make a mark, and I would look at this afterwards and I would say, okay, what needs to be done now? Like, what should I do? Which line should I turn on, and which line should I print over? And then I would choose a new mark making tool and do it. And here you can watch a time lapse of this happening. Okay, there was one layer. Okay, now what? The second layer. The second layer. And each time it's a bit of an experiment. I'm not really sure what's gonna, I have an idea of what's gonna come out, but I'm not really sure. And then each next layer is a response to the previous layer until I feel like the drawing is done. And here are just stills of another drawing. Again, the same document. This was, it's like a gesso base. I used the robot to draw the file in gesso on paper. And then I put some pan pastel over it. And then you can see it emerge over the different layers, the different steps that I chose. And the end product is very different than the last one we watched in the time lapse. And here are all 10 of them. Again, and so the big constraint here was the digital file was exactly the same each time. I would print different lines and I would repeat different lines, but you have a wide variety. And I don't have all of them, but I have some of them here in person if you want to see them, because I think up close it's interesting to see the marks. And I also have other pen plotted drawings. If anyone's interested, find me afterwards and talk to me. And just another example of one file, many ways to sort of hammer in how different, what different vibes you can get by just varying your materials in paper. This is a chimpanzee that I drew on my iPad and then used Illustrator. And you can see all the different ways that it can come out. And to conclude, I decided to, put the theme of the day up there and recode. And so in a way, for me, in these works, the recoding was actually not really about recoding inside the computer, but to rethink that, that the digital creation is a beginning and that there's so many possibilities past that digital creation into realizing it into the material world. And also like another important part, because I put myself on Instagram and TikTok, and sometimes, people, they write, they're like angry. They're like, this isn't art. If it's a robot, it's not art. And it's like, and I'm kind of like, wait, but I'm here and I'm making a lot of choices and I'm very much interacting I feel like I interact with the robot in a very similar way that I interact with the paintbrush or that I would interact with a piece of charcoal. And so I think that we're an integral part of art and technology. And I just find it quite interesting. And yeah, any questions, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions for Liz? Hands. Don't be shy. Oh, there we go.
Well, I find quite interesting. You shows them to pick up the randomness to the physical world.
Yes.
Instead of
Yeah.
I've been done simulation my whole professional life, and one of the challenges I've seen is to actually simulate the height of the paper, simulate the absorption of water and watercolor. But you made a choice, which I find very interesting, to actually go into the physical world and make that choice, or pick that randomness and something else emerges.
Yeah.
Why did you actually do that? Just because your fiancé had a pen poker, or did you have other thoughts for that?
Well, I love this idea of randomness and like experimenting and stuff like that. And it sounds like what you're doing is you're simulating it in a computer. And part of it is I simply these were the first pen plots I really did in sort of a serious way. And I simply didn't have the skills to manipulate a digital file in all the different ways that I would want. However, I also find the randomness in making a computer coded file is super interesting to me, but the randomness of putting dust on the paper and seeing how the brush reacts and the different things and not knowing what's gonna emerge is equally fascinating and also more immediate, right? Like I don't need to go to like Daniel Schiffman teach me how to code to figure it out. But
paper 10 or 20 times instead of still copy on the paper.
Yeah. And I mean, it's fun for me, right?
Okay. Any more questions?
Okay, so we have a comment from Steve. It would be fun to add some unpredictable. Okay, put it over there somewhere.
Where?
It would be fun to add some unpredictability to the axi-draw movement, like running to the Inkscape movement data through some kind of data distortion layer before plotting it. So I guess Stig is commenting you could add some either API or some random hardware in the middle just to give it some those. I mean, imagine those distortion pedals from the guitars.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah,
wow.
Dude, that sounds like all these things. I'm like, that sounds super cool. I gotta like go figure out how to do that. It's kind of above my skill set, but yeah, there's so many ways to interject randomness, and it's not, of course, just in the things that I talked about, but there's different steps that you could do it. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Round of applause. Our next speaker will be remote and will be Amanda Tate. She, following this series of presentations about people that work with computation but also work with physical media. Amanda is an interdisciplinary artist that has a background in metalsmithing and also in engineering and also in art. So she is an Iowa Arts Council Fellow and currently a graduate student at the Iowa State University in the USA. And her work explores themes of authorship, legacy, and technology in social cultural interaction. So welcome, Amanda. The floor is yours.
Hello, thank you. I am going to attempt to share my screen. Thank you for having me today. Really happy to be here. Let me see if I can find the right share. Okay.
Seems to be working. Yeah.
I wonder if I'm able to share just the slide portion.
Click on the switch slide view on top left.
Right.
There should be a button, like the third button should change you into the, should switch out the presenter notes, no? Live slide view. Top left.
I'm not sure. Let's just.
The third one, yeah, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 second. Why?
Are you using dual screens?
No,
Then I don't think it will work. You'll have to show.
no, I'm doing the, here we go.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. So a little bit about me, which you already heard, and thank you for sharing. I am studying integrated visual art and human computer interaction, doing both an MFA and a PhD at the same time at Iowa State University. My background has really kind of rooted me in dealing with the body and kind of the body as the site of exploration. Really appreciated what I just heard from Liz. I love the idea that the physical world can interact with or maybe enhance or change the digital world in some ways. The title of the piece that I've included in the exhibition today is called Technoculture Cumulonimbus, referring to both the digital landscape in our social world as well as perhaps cloud formations. So let's see, I've chosen to use processing to create this work. And in general, thinking of code as a way that either to communicate or clarify or complicate. And in this instance, really using it to translate data, but data that's generated in real time by movement and changing that into a visual and auditory representation in order to heighten the sensation of maybe groundedness or embodiment and awareness of spatial physicality and the presence that we routinely inhabit here in a symbolically adapted representation. So I really see this as creating a tool and a tool that viewers or interactors can use to see traces of their physical presence as an abstract manifestation. So kind of with some ties rooted in cinema, but again, without a narrative. So the narrative is really up to the viewer in their encounter and how they choose to interact. My work is heavily influenced by theories of kinesthetic empathy and how this kind of interdisciplinary concept is useful in understanding social interaction and communication through our creative and cultural practices. It deals with not just the body, but also the brain and the environment as related to movement and witnessing and mirror neurons. And how those encompass our interpersonal relationships, but not just with each other, also with objects, computers, and animals. So kind of a more holistic or post-human approach to dealing with the ways that we navigate the world and the ways that we see ourselves and each other. This is just a sketch of the setup when I was putting the project together. So through the algorithm that I've written, basically the system detects movement by comparing current pixels of a video frame to the previous pixels. And so it's detecting color and saturation and comparing those two And by this method, essentially determining where movement is happening within the webcam viewing area. And it then creates a calculation to determine the average point of movement. So based on these areas of movement, where is the average point of the most movement, and it draws there. So it draws a rotating line on the screen that moves based on the position or the point of most movement as it happens within the viewing field. So I like to think of it as generating a database in real time. And in order to kind of amplify that sentiment, I've structured it to have a dashboard. So here you can see on the left of the screen, it has this dashboard. And in a way, it's like, it's removing the narrative, but it's also giving a material existence to what is happening, a digital material existence, I guess, if we could say that. But the vertical dashboard here is kind of highlighting that by showing the data that the system is collecting or using or assessing as it's happening in real time. There's a horizontal bar at the top that slides to show the final motion value there as that adjusts. It also shows the coordinates of where the movement is happening within the rectangular frame or the sphere. And then it's using these assigned parameters and thresholds that I have given it to calculate how the drawing or the interaction is happening. And so the lines across the top here are different SVG files that are triggered both color and shape based on the quantified amount of movement that is being detected. In addition to that, there is a sound, and I'm using Ableton Live in addition to processing. There's some indicators on the bottom left too. This is what this slide is indicating. These showing the circles on the bottom that light up as those different thresholds and parameters are being met, kind of a visual feedback of how is my movement and my interaction affecting the system, and how is that in turn affecting me. This is just the snippet of code that shows that from processing. But as I mentioned, I'm using Ableton Live, and there are sounds mapped to each of those thresholds as well. So processing sends an OSC signal out. I'm converting the OSC signal into a MIDI CC, and then those MIDI CC channels are mapped within Ableton, and that allows me to give the movement the composing power, so to speak. So it's kind of turning choreography on its head rather than creating a set of dance movement to set music. In turn, the movement is what's driving both the visual generation and the sound generation. And I'm really interested in the ways in which choreography and embodied movement changes when we have an awareness that our movement is the source, because we do then change our behavior and our interaction with the system given those parameters. Let's see. So I'm really interested in giving viewers helping them discover within the structure that I'm providing that they already possess the tools for engaged interaction and meaning making through creative expression. So a lot of times people feel maybe intimidated or there's a barrier to understanding or connecting with art, or they don't see themselves as creative people. And I really feel like that through this approach that, you know, the way that we are interacting with being creative beings has the ability to change. I'm really inspired by the Fluxus art movement and the idea of conceptually establishing a framework, but leaving certain elements of the finished or the final piece to chance. And in this case, the chance elements are human driven and unable to be 100% accurately reproducible simply by the fact that it's something that happens improvisationally. And along the lines of improvisation, the idea that it's something that's innately human, that it's random, it's up to chance. And even the best AI, and I love AI, but even the best AI can only use the parameters that they're given. There isn't kind of the human wild card factor that we can bring by using ourselves and our bodies improvisationally. Let's see here. I do have a brief video. So another part of the idea for me is digital accessibility. And so this idea of how can we quantify movement and think of movement as something that everyone has this ability to do, this choreographed movement, but just in various capacities within our physical beings. So accessibility physically, and in addition to that, someone who may not have sight can still experience the work simply by being present and through the fact that it generates this audio composition. I am going to show this quick 1-minute video. Hopefully you'll be able to hear the sound because it is an important part of it. A few works cited that I've kind of used in building the system and the ways that I approach my practice. But ultimately, I'd maybe like to close with a little bit of a conclusion or a hope that as we step forward beyond just coded interface interactions with computational machines and more into the realm of co-creation, that we can also maybe step past some historical and perceptual systems that contain attitudes perpetuating patriarchal imbalances of power. Sensitivity to cultural difference at a microcultural level can lead to expanded understanding and empathy. And that's really what drives my work, is this idea that we can better understand ourselves and each other in empathetic and social relation. According to Russian formalist Viktor Shklovsky, the purpose of art is to work against habitualization, familiarization, and automation to recover the sensation of life. So focusing on the fundamental human need for play, interactivity, and creative expression within digital and interactive art, hopefully we can open new horizons of aesthetic sensibilities for diversity and inclusion to thrive. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. That was a fascinating talk. I wonder if anyone has questions here. Andre, yeah, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, speak up.
Okay.
All right.
So, I will try to tell a small story in order to make the question. Back in 2003, I was using, so 3 years ago, I was using soft PNS from the document, and I was working.
Okay, and I really need to make a gesture. Hello, can you see me?
I can, yes.
Great. So 20 years ago, I was working with Soft VNS from David Rockaby with a group of dancers, Dance Allele, and we were tracking their movement in order to produce visuals and sounds. And one of the dancers has complained and said, hey, your system is shit. Because when I make this gesture, the dancer, or when I make this gesture, the response, it's the same. So you speak about quantification of movement, so that you quantify movement. And my question is, do you have any thoughts on how to qualify the movement? How to further assess the qualities of movement that dancers supposedly? So this is my question. Thank you.
Yes, I've done a lot of workshops, not with this project, but with a previous project where I'm working both with professional dancers and the general public as participants. And a lot of times, what I've discovered is the frustration that they express is not having full control in the same way that they have full control of their being or their body. And I find this fascinating. I think that is maybe part of what really drives me in this is that we cannot control everything. We cannot predict everything. And it isn't about having domination maybe over a system as much as learning to collaborate with the system and learning the system's language as much as we are giving our own language or our own choreography to the system. And so I really see it more as a give and take rather than it being something that's specifically reproducing. I don't know if that makes sense, but there is a translation then that happens, and that's part of the interesting, whole here is that it isn't direct. It isn't A equals A. It's A equals B. And what do we then do with humans with what we have just generated that might not have been what we expected?
Okay, thank you. And if I may, I'll add a follow-up question, because trying to connect it with Liz's work and with this idea of lack of control over, what's usually is a pretty deterministic computational system. I wonder if the narrative you talked about, the narrative that is created by the viewer with this tool, is it born out of mastering the tool or out of discovering the tool? Meaning, the story I create is, to a certain extent, the story of me finding out how the system works, right? And it's the story of me finding out what I can do. And then, at a certain point, should I expect the rules of the system to be static or to also change and then surprise me, right? Because if I fully master that tool, then what happens? Then the story ends.
Yeah. Then we need a new tool, right? I agree, and I love that. Yeah, I'm very rooted in discovery, and so if it's something that we're not engaged with in that way, then it loses some of the magic or some of the meaning, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. So thank you so much, Amanda. We need to move on. So now I will call our final speaker for the morning, Tansy Chow. She also comes from the United States, this time from New York, and she is an artist, a curator, and a writer. Continuing on the theme of interdisciplinarity, Chow creates theatrical installations with non-linear narratives that often extend beyond the fourth wall. And she's there already. Hi. Her work examines the power and inadequacy of language and substantiates the multiplicity of being human through the assemblage of stochastic audio and recontextualized objects. Welcome. You have the floor.
Hi, everyone. I guess I'll show my slides. So I guess Amanda just concluded her project with a very interesting point, and because my project is about control, and more specifically the lack of control. And I also work with movements, and this was actually programmed in the simplest, most vanilla version of JavaScript, P5.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We're not seeing your slides. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. There we go.
Should do. Oh yeah. So this is a mock-up actually, because I never found a good way to document projection. This is just a single channel video installation with a webcam that captures the movement. I'm using, so on the left is basically the score, and here you can see how the dancer might move to the webcam, and I'm using ML5.js. If anyone has used it, it's a machine learning tool. You can teach the machine to react to your movements. It's basically a preset. So I worked with a mezzo-soprano, and she basically sent you a graphic score that is a stock chart. You'll see what I mean. So this is a score, and basically each chart represents the high and lows of a specific stock during the pandemic, more specifically from March 2020 till present times, which is actually last year. So it includes both like AMC Entertainment, which is AMC, and GameStop basically are the YOLO stocks that if you're familiar with investment, those are the things that basically are the symbols of individuals trying to fight the system in order to gain control. My piece is called Control, and ultimately the lack of control. So just as in Amanda's piece, there's a slightly basically a sense of losing control if a dancer moves to the webcam. And I'll give an example very soon. This is another version of it. I created multiple versions of the same piece. This screenshot is from a multi-channel installation that I used the Raspberry Pi for. Each panel has like one channel of sound and image, and the background image was generated by Midjourney. And I just made a few windows to allow the mouse to sing through. And here are some other versions. I guess I'll play a video. So this is a documentation of the original. Like imagine someone moves to the webcam and this is what's going to happen. You get the idea. Where are my slides? Stuck there a little. Okay. So I also have video clips from the smaller channel version. So this one basically yeah, each of them. I wish I had a better documentation of this. And the other, I also did a projection mapping version with MadMapper, and this was actually mapped onto paper plates hanging on a piano and 2 balloons. And this part is sound reactive. And currently I'm developing another speech recognition version of it. But there's a delay because the current speech recognition in P5, not just in P5, but in JavaScript, is basically a library where you upload your audio file, which is a speech, onto the server, and then it bounces back to create the reaction. So there's a delay, but this one is supposed to respond to winter, summer. Yeah, this one sings. And I'm currently working with a technician to recreate the project in Max MSP to see if we can use local speech recognition instead of on the server to increase the speed. And here's a sketch for like the ultimate version, basically, which is I'm going to manipulate used furniture to embed mini screens, and each of the mini screens is going to have a microcontroller attached to it. And there's going to be some form of IR sensor to trigger each of the panels. So eventually it's like a little choir embedded into the furniture. And that's it. I can put the link in the chat so that you can find the code and experience it yourself.
Just to give us a second to share the link on the projection. I can manage to put it over here somehow. And it's just 12 minutes. I don't know if people are going to be able to see.
Okay. Yes, the link is on the screen. Thank you.
If there's a volunteer, they can just come up to the webcam and move their body. And there's, let me see if I can. The P5 sketch is on the webpage, but I can also just send the link here.
Maybe we'll open it there. Yeah.
For anyone who has experience with P5, basically you have to like click on the right side, the canvas, in order to activate it. Otherwise it won't work. And once you activate it, click the space bar to full screen, and then you can start dancing to it.
Okay. Any questions from our local audience? Hands? No questions from Zoom, I think. Okay, so Tessie, thank you so much. Thank you also to Pierre Corric, Liz Melchor, sorry, and Amanda Tate. This has been a great session, and we will now break for lunch. Am I right, Pedro? And we will reconvene at 2:30 here for the keynote address. Right. Well, thank you all and see you in a bit.
Que frio!